In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Spraznikam. It's a very, I don't know how else to put it. I just feel like today's gospel, in so many ways, it has like a comedic element to it. Christ comes to the lake of Gennesaret. He sees two boats on the lake, and the fishermen are in them. He goes into the boats. He preaches to the people. And then when he had stopped speaking, he said to Simon, "Launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch." But Simon answered and said to him, "Master, we have toiled all night and caught nothing. Nevertheless, at your word, I will let down the net." And when they had done this, they caught a great number of fish, and their net was breaking. So they signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both the boats, so that they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, "Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord." For he and all who were with him were astonished at the catch of fish which they had taken. And so also were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, and were partners with Simon, and said to Simon, "Do not be afraid, from now on." And Jesus said to Simon, "Do not be afraid, from now on you will catch men." So when they brought their boats to land, they forsook all and followed him. It's interesting that Simon Peter plays such a huge role in the gospel. He's kind of like, after Christ, I don't know, I would have to see the actual breakdown, but he's got to be like the second or third most quoted person in the gospel. He's constantly having these kind of very intense and very entertaining interactions with Christ. And so it is today that when we read the gospel, I think there's two big things that we can take out of what Simon says. Number one is, after seeing this miracle from Christ, which Christ later refers to and says, "Do not be afraid." So there was obviously some fear or some trepidation. On some level, Peter is kind of shook by what he sees going on and who this man Jesus is. He's not yet a disciple. He's not yet following him. This is kind of one of these first interactions that he has with him. But what I love about him is that the first thing that he says to him is, "Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord." You know, we see in the gospel the harlot who comes to Christ's feet, and she casts herself down, and she's weeping, and she anoints his feet with her tears. We see the Jews that want to kill Christ, you know, both the Pharisees and the Sadducees. We see all these kind of very intense interactions with Christ. We don't really see a lot of neutrality, right? There's not a lot of indifference to Christ. It's kind of like, he kind of is like, you either love him or you hate him. Very much as he says in the Gospels, there's two masters. You either love the one and hate the other, or hate the one and love the other. He doesn't say you're indifferent. You cannot be indifferent to God, but also if you look at the way that he's interacting with people, just who he is and the things that he does provoke such a tremendous, intense, emotional response from them. And I love that Peter, he's not like, he doesn't say, "Oh Lord, cleanse me and make me like you." He's like, "This is enough." He's like, "You got to go." He's like, "This is too much for me." It's so funny because you think of all the different ways in which he could have spoke to Christ. "Lord, make me holy like you. Lord, forgive me. Have mercy on me. I need your healing." Lord, he doesn't do any of that. The first thing that he does, he's like, "All right," he's like, "That was good." He's like, "But probably we've had enough of this. I am a sinful man, O Lord." He's just so raw honesty all the time with Christ. The first principle that we can see from the life of the apostles is they were honest with Christ. They did not hide or hold anything back. Even when they come to Christ with these crazy questions like, "Hey, at the end of all time, can we sit on your right and left side?" You know, the boldness to be talking to the creator of the universe and saying, like, "By the way, when you're like in your glory for all of eternity, I'd like to sit next beside you." Right? It's like, it's this absurdity that we constantly see with the apostles. And what's interesting about Christ is what? He doesn't really rebuke them. The only time I can think that he has a major rebuke is when Peter says to him, don't go to Jerusalem. When he's like, don't be crucified. Then the Lord immediately says, get behind me, Satan. But other than that, all their kind of knucklehead questioning, their ideas, the things they don't understand, Christ is so humble with them. So humble with them. People forget that Christ, when he came in the flesh, was a normal person. He was not like blowing everybody out of the water with razzle-dazzle personality. He just was very much himself. He was not trying to entertain. He was not putting on a show. He was not anything. He just was himself. But he was himself in such a way that he was so accessible to everyone. So the first principle that we should understand is like, listen, God already knows everything about us. We spend too much time lying to him. Just way too much time lying to him. We say, oh, I don't like this sin, and really we like it. We go, oh, I would love to do that, and we're like, I really don't want to do it. You know, oh, aren't the services beautiful? And then we're like, I really don't have the energy to go this weekend. You know, it's like, oh yeah, fasting is a blessing. Oh, the church fathers. Oh, the church fathers. We don't read them. We create kind of this weird facade of who we think a Christian is supposed to be, and it's completely inauthentic. And we have an idea in our mind that God is like, he needs us to be somebody. So we have this relationship with God where we often pray and we're trying to be the person that we think he needs us to be. And the secret is, God does not need us to be anybody, because God has no needs. Who does God desire for us to be? And I love, once I read this one time, somebody was saying, you know, so often we miss the love of God because we're not authentic with God. We're not real with God. We create a facade of who we are with God. And so we go to God and we say, oh, I'm this very pious, or just so you know, Orthodox, but Russian Orthodox, just so you know, very pious Russian Orthodox. I'm very serious about my faith. I'm very good. I like church, right? We go to God like this and he's like, who are you? You know, somebody once said it was like, God loves our real self, but he can't love a facade. And so when he's loving our real self, that's where all of his love is going. But we miss it because we're trying to be somebody else, somebody that we're not. We're pretending with him. We're playing. We're not being honest. We're not being sincere. So many times people have come to me in confession and they're like, oh, Father, just sometimes it's like they have to whisper like, oh, sometimes I don't feel like coming to church. And I'm like, yeah, of course, I feel the same way. And then they're like, what do we do now? Now we both don't want to be at church. I don't want to be at church. The priest says, no. I said, listen, of course we have feelings. Sometimes you work all week. I said, when I was working full time, I'd be so busy Monday through Friday. I'd get up on Saturday. I'd cook the kids breakfast, have a little window of downtime, and then be immediately at church for hours. I go, of course, according to my flesh, yes, of course, sometimes I just want to take a break. I don't want to go. That's how I genuinely feel. But I said, I also don't try to hide that. I still go to church. And inevitably, I'm in church, and about an hour and a half of the way in, my soul starts to feel nourished, and I'm like, this is why I'm here. I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But I don't have to be anybody fake before God. And we see this continually with the apostles. They were not fake. They were not make-believe. They were not whatever. They were not putting on airs. They were very genuine with God. Very genuine and very honest. And the second thing that we can take away from this with Peter is what? Sometimes we actually feel like God's holiness and who he is too much. We actually read this in the saints. Sometimes the saints are like, they basically say like, oh Lord, if you could just love me a little bit less, you know? Sometimes God's love is so all-consuming in our life, and his activity in our life is to such a degree, and his desire to purify us is to such a degree that we just are we kind of get a little like Peter, and we're kind of like, this was amazing, but this is a lot. If Peter said it to Christ's face, don't worry. Christ is not going to be offended if you say it to him. Why? Because Christ wants to make us like himself. He is not interested in a better version of us that's only a little bit better. Christ wants to take us the full distance. Christ wants everyone to become a saint. Everyone. Everyone. I know so many people are like, yeah, but Father, it's like, no. Everyone. It's on our end. It's our level of participation. It's our level of honesty. It's our level of hard work. So many things get jammed up on our end. But on Christ's end, he wants to see us made into the image of himself. I remember preaching or giving a talk years ago to some catechumens, and I said, somebody was talking about humility or how to get to humility. And I just said, the classic line. I said, there is no humility without humiliation. That's what humility is. You get humiliated. And they were like, but Father, she was an older woman, but Father, I want the humility without the humiliation. And I'm like, yes. Don't we all? We all want a magical sprinkling of humility that just kind of washes down on us, and we're just super soldiers of piety, and we're so nice and sweet and kind, and magically our whole character is transformed in the twinkling of an eye, and we become spiritual, and it's beautiful and wonderful, but that's not reality. Everything that we do in the spiritual life requires a grind, a cultivation, a participation on our end. We have to align ourselves in our activities with God. Notice what Peter says at the beginning. He says, depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord. He's like, this is enough. And then the last verse, so when they brought their boats to land, they forsook all and followed him. He's like, this is enough. And then Christ is like, okay, let's go. And he's like, all right. Right? It's okay. It's okay that our heart kind of pulls us in two directions. In the one direction we say, oh Lord, I cannot, this is so much love and it's so wonderful, but please not one drop more of love from you. This is the perfect amount. And God's like, no, I have more to share with you because I have more to cultivate in you. But also on the second end, we have to say, we have to fight to overcome this inclination. Just like the inclination, the desire not to come to church. Oh, it's vigil, I don't need to go to vigil, I'm a catechumen, or I'm not going to confession, or I have this going on, or I have that going on Saturday night, etc., etc. I'm very busy, I get paid a lot of money, I need to work, I need to do this. No. Everybody has to fight against that inclination. I have enough. I have enough spirituality. I have enough. I don't need one droplet more. It can feel that way, and that's okay. But the reality is we have to come to the end of the gospel chapter in the words where it says, and they forsook all and followed him. Our heart lies to us. Our heart betrays us. Our heart is looking to protect our pride and our ego. Our heart does not want to be purified to the degree that Christ wants to purify it. All of these things can be true all at one time. But with our actions, we have to put our feet on the ground and do the work. Even when we don't want to, even when we're not inclined to, even when we're tired or hungry or this or that or the other, it does not matter. The fact is, we still have to push forward and do the work. Those, brothers and sisters, are our takeaway from today's gospel. One, to be honest with God, to be sharing with him who we truly are and what we're truly about and what we truly have going on, and not to make ourselves somebody that we're not. And then number two, when we're open and honest with God, it's not our condemnation, because we still have to press forward. We still have to put it into action. And that's okay. Sometimes our heart does not align with our actions, and that is perfectly healthy. When our heart wants to take us in the direction it shouldn't go, our actions should correct it. We should not be so led by our feelings or thoughts, whatever, that we do not live by principles and the things that God desires and requires of us. God knows that we are double-minded and that we struggle hard against the flesh. And this is why he gives us commandments and not suggestions. He's not like, just so you know, it'd be good if it'd be good if you were at church this Sunday, if you could make it, if you could fit it in your schedule. That's not how God works. People come to me in confession, they're like, I've had this so many times. Somebody's like, Father, how often do I have to go to church? And I'm like, on Sunday? They're like, yeah. I go, that's like, you don't negotiate with God. He's not asking you to come part of the time. And I'm certainly not going to stand between you and God and tell God that I told you you could come half of the time. I'm like, that's on you. If you don't want to come, that is on you. But if you don't want to come and you come, what happens? Then you get the grace from God. God rewards us when we fight against our nature and our inclinations, and we actually follow through on what it is that he's instructing us to do. In this way, we receive a deepening of our relationship with Christ. We see two things: both that Christ accepts us as we are, as being not very spiritual people, and that he rewards us with his love and his intimacy when he sees that we are trying to make progress and work on it. It's beautiful. It's the overwhelming condescension, humility, and love of Christ that he shared with the apostles that knit them so tightly to him. So much closeness between Christ and the apostles that we should see this as an example of the type of relationship that we too can build with Christ. We do not have an inferior relationship to him, or one where he doesn't know us like he knew them. He knows us in every way. In every way, he knows all the inclinations and desires of our hearts. And he desires, first and foremost, that even if our inclinations want to lead us astray, if we follow him, he will be with us. Amen.